Okay, go ahead. Introduce yourself, what you do, who you help, how you help them, all of that good stuff.
Oh my gosh, no, my whole life story. Hello, I'm Tini. I'm a bunch of things. I like to experiment things, and because I like to experiment things and see what I do, how I do it, and why I do it, and why it makes sense, and how it makes a difference, that makes it possible for me to put things in an order that makes sense. And that doesn't mean, please do not assume that I can talk like this every single time. No, I need time to think about the process to see how things connect. Because I was putting pressure on myself to know everything and never make any mistakes. So just wanted to start with that. It's not about being perfect. So yeah, I was structuring courses for a few years, and now I'm currently shifting to working with intuitive mentors. And because they use a variety of tools and techniques that they adapt depending on what the client needs, their clients get a variety of results. So it can be hard to talk about those results in a way that feels good without having to overpromise a specific transformation, because we don't know how the person is going to interact with our guidance. We don't know whether they're going to implement what we tell them to implement. So we don't have control over that. So we can't make a promise like that. Um, so I help intuitive mentors describe the work that they do in a way that feels really good to them, doesn't overpromise, but still showcases the value of that transformation and interaction and collaboration. Yes, that would be it.
So, how did you get into doing that? Because I'm sure you've had quite the journey to get from where you were to there.
Yes. And looking back, it's fascinating to see. It wasn't always fascinating when you're in it, you don't see how fascinating it can be. So I started, let's start with the meal planning thing. So I used to design meal plans. And at some point, I decided, okay, so I want to teach people how to do this, how to create their own meal plans, because I couldn't do it for everybody, because I wanted to help everybody. And I decided to create a course. So I sat down and I looked at what I was doing when I was creating those meal plans, what knowledge I was accessing, what steps was I taking, what was needed, and how did I reach to a complete meal plan. And I created my first course. And then I created another course and another, and then I decided, oh, this is something that I'm really good at. This is something that I would love to help people with. So I started helping other people structure their courses. And then I extracted a signature process from that, how I was doing it, to teach others how to create their own courses. And so that's how it went from one thing to the other. And I'm a big fan of showing the work, because when I collaborate with someone, I want them to know what to expect. I can't just promise, hey, this is the transformation that I'm going to help you with, because I don't know. But what I am solid in is in how I do my work, what to expect when we work together. So I found ways to show the work, and to give people an experience so that they could decide, hey, this is the thing for me or it's not. And we would both be on the same page.
That's quite a journey that you had there.
Yes.
Have you invested in yourself in terms of networking groups, coaching, or masterminds? And how did that affect your networking?
So the first thing that comes to mind is when I had the call with you, with a 20-minute solution call that I had with you, which was amazing. You helped me realize that I was naturally networking. I was joining programs to learn about how to market and sell my services, um, self-development, collaborations, whatever I felt passionate about, I would join it, and I would show my homework, show the thought process behind what I was doing and how I was doing it. And that's how I started networking and connecting with people. They would see my work in action, and that's how we would connect. And I'm also um, fascinated by getting to know people through their work. So I would ask curious questions about that, and that's how we connected. I even remember, I think this was more than 5 years ago. I was in a program, and I connected with someone there, and they asked me to create a short course for their program to have it as a bonus in there. So I think that's one of the ways um, that joining programs has affected my networking. And I also joined paid collectives, spaces where you could just be there and have genuine exchanges with people and get to know each other. And it made me think that when we connect with someone, it's not enough to just hear about what they do once. We need to hear it multiple times before we understand what they mean, because, I mean, they're focused on their thing, we're focused on our thing, and then we need to understand each other's ways of seeing the world.
Yeah, and sometimes it can seem like, especially with these networking meetings, there's like 30-second intros. You don't get the full gist of what a person's work is in that short amount of time, or even just in one post.
I agree. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Would you say you're more introverted or extroverted, and how does that affect your networking strategies?
I'm curious if anyone watching can tell that I'm an introvert. Yeah, I tend to see myself as an introvert. Um, and I think also looking back at the call I had with you, um, I was waiting for everyone else who was more extroverted to reach out to me and connect, because I thought that I wasn't good at initiating connections or conversations. But you changed my perspective on that. So in that way, being an introvert influenced my networking, because I was waiting. I was going to these networking events, and I like to observe and I like to see what everyone has to say. And when I speak, I kind of want to tie what I have to say with what has been said before, so that there's a nice flow to it. It's also something that I do in my work, so I do it in conversations like that as well. Yeah, that's.
I know you have done collaborations. What was your favorite thing about some of the collaborations that you've done?
Apart from the usual, where you meet people you wouldn't have met otherwise, I think it's, for me, discovering more of what I like to do and what I don't like to do, and seeing that I can have I can be in a collaboration where we respect each other's energies, points of view, and natural ways to work and communicate. Yeah.
Yeah, because being different from the other person is definitely a thing that makes collaborations really work, because you've got those two differing skill sets and perspectives.
Yes. And also I was able to set set boundaries, but not really. I used to be afraid of being myself and saying, hey, I really don't want to do this, because I thought that the person would just say, okay, we can end the collaboration here. But I learned that it's okay to speak up and to say, hey, I really don't want to do this. And of course, yeah. And then come up with solutions maybe, but just being open about that.
Yeah, I agree. It's super important to set boundaries. Do you prefer networking in groups or having more one-to-one conversations?
Ah, this is interesting. I would say that I prefer one-to-one because there's let's say a deeper connection that we can make. Um, I get to know you. I get to know what you like, what you don't, analogies that I could share with you that you will get, um, things like that. But the group dynamics is also interesting, in that I can, let's say, learn from different people enough um, faster. Different perspectives, hear different ways of saying things and different approaches. Yeah, but one-to-one would be my favorite.
Would you say getting comfortable being uncomfortable is part of the entrepreneur skill set?
Uh, this is a question that I always think about this because uh, it there's no one right way. Let's say I guess so, but I think it depends on what we think uncomfortable means. Because if by being uncomfortable means doing something that I do not like, um, over and over, I would say no. Um, but trying something new, sort of what they say, taking risks and maybe being open to something that we haven't explored, if that's what we mean, then yes.
Yeah, and I think it's important to like distinguish the like, okay, this isn't aligned versus I haven't tried this before, so I'm nervous about it.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Because I used to think that I should be doing quite a few of the things that made me uncomfortable because otherwise I wouldn't grow. But it turns out that they weren't aligned with me and how I want to express myself.
What kinds of things have you done to help you get out of your comfort zone?
Um, I think I've been doing this most of my life with with everything. But if I'm to look at how my online business started, I started freelancing. Well, I created a website with the meal planning things. I was putting recipes out there. Um, and then um, I started working on Upwork. Even that was something outside my comfort zone to speak to someone. It wasn't my native language. English is not my native language, of course, you can tell. And I started this not having my friends or family on board because they don't speak English, most of them. And so that was a big thing that I did outside my comfort zone. I posted gigs on Fiverr and I connected with many people. One of them turned out to be a really cool person that I collaborated with. So they reached out a few years after we had an interaction on Fiverr, and they asked me to work with their clients to structure some of their trainings. So that was cool and unexpected. Um, also, did tons of challenges and things, put myself on the internet. Hello, even this one. Um, yeah, and creating courses, posting them on platforms and marketplaces like Udemy and Skillshare and stuff. Yeah.
How do you feel about the DMs on Facebook? Love them, hate them?
Okay, if we're, I mean, I have lots of conversations in the DMs, but if we're talking about receiving DMs that pitch me things, then I please don't tell anyone, but I do not receive them anymore. I don't know why. I hope this will not change things. But when I used to receive them, I would just it depends on the message. If it landed in my inbox, then I would respond to it. If it was in the spam or message request, okay, goodbye. But I guess, look, when a few years ago, I was in this program that taught the strategy to grow your group, sending DMs to people. And I tried it, I did it. So I understand others who do this. It's just that I found other ways that feel better to me. So I also want to respect others and their strategies. And I didn't know better because, yeah, that's all I knew back then.
Yeah, I found a way to get rid of, I still occasionally, I get a lot less now. I took the word coach out of a lot of my posts and a lot of content. I know I've actually started DM conversations around the fact that I removed that particular word. And it cleaned up a lot of things, both wall post and DMs. So it could also be the kind of content that you're putting out as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I think I thought about it when I saw a post on some specific issues that people had with the platform, and with certain platforms or things that were happening, and when they were using certain keywords, and they would get certain types of comments. So yeah, okay, makes sense.
So at what point do you bring the conversation into the DMs? Because I know this is another thing because people want the warm DMs, but not the cold DMs.
Okay, so if I'm in groups, for instance, and I've posted something and people interact with me, if it makes sense to have a conversation further, I would just ask if it's okay to send them a message, and we can talk about whatever it is that we were talking before. So yeah, I think that's it, consent based. That's how I would say it.
What are your thoughts on tapping into your intuition when networking?
Um, is it more on around who I connect with? So being more aware of the energies in the room, things like that?
Yeah, I would say it's around that. Well, it's around everything to do with networking, what events to go to, who to connect with, like how far you want to go with the collaboration. I guess it kind of touches upon everything. So,
Okay. Well, sometimes I would get an answer after I do something and I realize it's not for me. So sometimes that happens. Um, but I learn from it. So that's cool because then I can use that experience as, okay, here's what I did, it didn't work. Here's why it didn't work. So maybe others can learn from that. Um, but I'm starting to distinguish between um, when the energy feels lighter and heavier. I think that's the best way to explain it. And when I feel drained of energy, I think that for me is a clear indication that I'm not in the right room and I can leave. One thing that nobody told me was that it's okay to leave an event. You don't even have to say anything. And the only thing that helped me was to say, okay, but imagine this, if you ran out of internet or you didn't have whatever, electricity anymore, and just you would be away. So it's okay to push that leave button if you don't feel good. I don't have to stay there. Yeah. So distinguishing between that lighter and heavier energy for me, what drains me, what energizes me, and I think it's the same with people, people I feel more connected with. It depends on. I think there are subtleties that we pick up on, and I think we're way better at this than we think. I was in Germany. I lived in Germany for a few years, and we were on the street, but I just saw a few people in the distance, and I knew that they were Romanian. So I'm Romanian. And I just knew, I don't know how, I hadn't heard them speak before I passed them by. but I just knew. And I think that's also something that's ingrained in us. We notice things and we notice patterns and things. Um, so maybe it's more about being more aware of this and practicing tuning into our intuition.
Yeah, I found practice helps it as well. And especially because then I know it's my intuition telling me something and not my feelings, which when I first started working on my intuition, even though I knew it was separate and sometimes the feelings would just like overwhelm me and I wasn't able to take the actions on the intuition, which I know is the thing that is guiding me in the direction that I need to go.
That's a good point because I do get super excited about most things because of the learning aspect, because I'm curious and there is always something to learn in anything. But then, yeah, discerning, okay, am I excited? Do I also have energy for it? Yeah.
So, any closing remarks or things that you wanted to add?
I think I would go with there's always a way. Just because there's always a way. There's always another way. If something doesn't feel good, if we want to do things in a different way, we can do that. We don't have to sacrifice our values or who we are or what we like to do just to follow something that we think is the only way. And I think it connects with most things that we talked about as well.
Was there anything else?
No, that would be it. Um, I don't know. If anyone wants to connect, you'll find me. You'll find me.
So glad to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Mm.